Hello, and thank you for joining LASA OMS for our webinar, What the Endocannabinoid System and Acupuncture Have in Common, featuring Tim Gordon from Functional Remedies. My name is Jeffrey Bloom, Education Marketing Coordinator here at LASA OMS. LASA OMS strives to support our customers, practitioners, educators, and other industry professionals through quality products, product education, and school and humanitarian relief donations. With our free webinar series, we intend to offer product and practice management education through its practical application by some of our industry's most renowned educators. Please keep in mind, if you are not able to join us for future programs, we record each webinar and the video available on our blog afterwards in the following week or two. Oops, someone's saying no sound. 1 second.
I just got a text, Jeff, that says no sound.
Okay, that is a problem. Oh, Helen can hear us. Okay, they can hear us.
Hey,
all right.
We're back. Hey,
okay, great. So now let me take a moment to acclimate you to the webinar room. To the right of the video screen, you will see 3 tabs: chat, questions, and polls. To ask a question of a guest speaker, please post it to the questions tab. To chat with other attendees during the webinar, please use the chat tab. And then we did post some polls, and we would appreciate if you would answer those questions for us. It is also best to use either Chrome, Firefox, or Safari browsers to view the webinar, as you may experience some slowness on other browsers. We will attempt to answer a question during the course of the webinar, but in the event we cannot, answers will be shared on our blog afterwards. Now for the main event. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest educator, Tim Gordon. Tim became president at CBDRX and Functional Remedies in 2017 and is now serving as Chief Science Officer. Born and raised in Canada in a cannabis farming community, Tim, for sustainable cannabis farming, is only eclipsed by his love for the cannabis plant. Tim oversees hemp operations and the Functional Remedies product division. Tim has developed an aggressive cannabis program, an industry-leading agricultural operation, and state-of-the-art laboratory and production facility. Tim serves as a technical advisor on the board of National Hemp Association and is also president of the Colorado Hemp Industries Association. Tim has written about and researched the cannabis plant for nearly 20 years and has been highlighted in news programs as well as magazines and periodicals. Functional Remedies is the world's leader in cannabinoid hemp production, leading the eco. Please join me in welcoming Tim Gordon.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate it. And thanks to everyone who's joining here. This should be a really fun experience for everyone, and really intricate experience, I hope, to really gain some further in-depth knowledge, some further in-depth understanding of this unique relationship here we're talking about in TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, of cannabis and acupuncture, and the many circular intersections that they share when it comes to total body wellness. As Jeff said, I've been researching this plant for almost 20 years now, and it's really what drives me. It's the passion behind what I do every day, what we do at Functional Remedies, and it's really led me to really be almost an evangelist for this plant, and for better understanding of how this plant, our body's endocannabinoid system, and other practices really work together in unison and synergy for what I love to call total body wellness, which is intricate to the endocannabinoid system. So again, thanks everyone for joining. This is going to be really fun. I absolutely love talking about this plant, and sometimes, well, not sometimes, I very often go on tangents. So if Jeff, if I'm going off subject, you may have to jump in and help out here. So let's jump in. Let's talk about what we're going to be learning about and some of the objectives for our webinar here today in relation to the endocannabinoid system and acupuncture and TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. We'll also refer to the endocannabinoid system oftentimes as the ECS when I'm just going through a general spiel of things, just for everybody for knowledge there. So yes, our objectives here are going to be to really have a deeper understanding of the endocannabinoid system. You know, we won't go crazy deep into it. I preface everything by saying, guys, I'm not a medical doctor or anything associated with a medical practice, but I have researched this system and its intricate relationships with the peripheral systems of the body. So I do feel I can speak educatedly on the subject matter. It's going to be a really general, but with some really intricate details to those synergies between the ECS and other practices for that total body wellness we're talking about. So we'll talk about how acupuncture and hemp CBD affect the endocannabinoids similarly, which is really interesting here, and it should be for those of you guys who are practice who own a practice or are practitioners in some way of TM or acupuncture or one of the many other attributes under TCM. This will be a really interesting little chat we can get into, and I look forward to all of your questions. So let's talk about another learning objectives and how to use CBD and CBD-based products in relation to possible sessions of acupuncture or other forms of TM, and how that's going to relate, and how we're going to have what we call total body wellness, but also optimal patient outcomes here, or optimal practitioner outcomes for that matter, for those of you who are practitioners. And I often speak in optimals. I love working in optimals, and I think the endocannabinoid system is one of those rare opportunities to optimize that total body wellness. All right. So here we go. Let's talk about things. Acupuncture and chiropractic treatments are both modulating the ECS because they are influencing these medians of nervous and immune systems, right? This is what's unique about the endocannabinoid system. It is really the master system modulator, the master system regulator. ECS, as you guys will talk about, has an abundance of receptors throughout all of the tertiary peripheral organs and systems of the body. And we'll go to that a little bit further down the line, but the abundance of receptors throughout these systems, this is what really brings us back to this balance we call homeostasis, even down to a cellular level, which is key for self-regulation, for healing, for all those aspects of health and wellness. And we'll go into how these things can be supported, how we can support our ECS through supplemental treatments of hemp oil, ways to infuse our ECS to have better outcomes for other therapies that we're engaging with, like acupuncture or whatever that may be. All right, so let's get into the endocannabinoid system here. Really, like to call the master system of our body outside of the CNS, central nervous system. We'll find that the ECS has system regulators and receptors throughout our body, as I said. They're in anywhere from our central nervous system, our CB1 receptors, mainly found in the central nervous and brainstem of the brain and brainstem median of the brain. We're talking about how the CB2 receptors are largely in our immune system and lymphatics, but we also have these receptors throughout digestive and respiratory, sensory and renal, and people are all over experiencing this. And it's almost like, hey, how is CBD affecting all of these different ailments in the world, health ailments or applications or injuries, or how is these three little words, how are they interacting with all of these? And is it snakeal? I mean, can it really do all of this stuff? Well, the answer is right here in front of it. It's within us. It's the endocannabinoid system. And what's also unique and almost scary about this is arguably one of the most important system of our body wasn't really put into medicinal text and studied until the 80s. And it just blows me away how this system, like we talk about, the master system, really transcends all of the other systems there. How this system in itself is really almost new right now. So it's really interesting. So how come you see anything, a neurologic deficit being minimized through cannabidiol therapies, or for perhaps someone who's had a mass amounts of inflammation through injury? How come they're seeing such relief? How come folks are seeing it in the psychosomatic side, the sensory side, nervous system? Well, it's because of the endocannabinoid system. And it's that word, that cannabinoid, right? It's just like cannabis. And it's that relationship, that unique relationship between phyto and mammalia, really the key to activating this master system, the endocannabinoid system, through these supplements that we're going to introduce to you guys later on. And we talk about, that be a beneficial part of your practice here. So what's really unique, you guys, is the endocannabinoid system is not specific, much like the central nervous system or the lymphatic or muscular. The ECS is throughout all of these systems, and that's why endocannabinoids are present throughout our body and produced naturally in our body. And it's that system that relies on us and that's relationship with the plant cannabis to infuse this, to reinactivate our system, to take us out of what I call endocannabinoid deficiency. We all likely share in this stressful world we live in, working from 9 a.m. to 9 at night, maybe have kids and 2 jobs even, trying to do all these different things. We're stressed. Well, the endocannabinoid system is here to help that stress and bring balance back to our lives. So let's talk about endocannabinoid deficiency. This is a big one in the world right now, incredibly understudied, an incredible lack of research on this, but highly viable in outcome is understanding that endocannabinoid deficiency is real. And it's largely a part of peripheral symptoms that we don't correlate to the ECS being out of balance. So some of the things that contribute to endocannabinoid deficiency, you guys can see them on the screen: fibromyalgia, some of these MS, some of these big autoimmune conditions, even cancer, can all be contributed to this lack of balance we have internally with our ECS that I mentioned is largely working overtime, and one that we've almost forgotten to take care of. So when the ECS is out of balance, you have multiple systems that can develop or can become worse, whether it's a tertiary nerve system, peripheral system, anything like that, psychosomatic. When our ECS is out of balance, those symptoms tend to become exemplified and often mistreated when we really need to think about really the ECS bringing the balance back to those peripheral systems. So more than 20,000 scientific studies have been published in the National Institute of Health's website and PubMed related to the ECS. There is a plethora of information, of peer-related data, white papers of why the ECS is important to system modulation and to system balance. Big contributor, you guys, we've all talked about, and I'm sure one of the reasons largely you guys have patients coming into your practice is to deal with stresses and the related peripheral actions or devastation stress can have in our daily lives. So this slide's a little bit hard to see, but basically what I wanted to outline to you guys is the endocannabinoid system, even at times, can be taxed. We can go through what's called clinical endocannabinoid deficiency. There's ways here to understand to understand why and to treat, right, and to bring our balance back to our lives. So we have CB1 receptors, like we talked about, mainly associated with the brain and the central nervous system, mainstem brain systems here. Some are also prevalent in our peripheral organs, but think central nervous system and in the peripheral brain system here. CB2 receptors, mostly found in our organs. We said associated with a large amount of immune system. Think of this. Think of all the associated, immunodeficiencies we are having in the world today, and how they are being treated. When we need to look back at our systems and bring this really important modulating system back into balance. And I am willing to guess, and in my practice every day, when what we do at Functional Remedies, we see the outcomes of folks who are using traditional Chinese medicine like acupuncture in correlation with a hemp-based high in cannabidiol or CBD, and really seeing that optimization of health choices, bringing that greater balance back to life. So this is really interesting here. I think it should be a point of conversing with all of you guys as we are in this webinar and as you are in your practices and with colleagues and stuff. We have to understand that acupuncture, the ECS, this is a discipline that when you create the circle of cannabis and the circle of acupuncture and they meet, it's that point in the middle where you experience patient outcome, patient results that are optimal. And it's been around us forever. It's over for 2,000 years now. cannabis has been documented in traditional Chinese medicine, along with Qigong, along with acupuncture and the many other benefits. So this, while it's new to us in our society, and I call it sometimes the green rush mentality around cannabis, how it's all new. This is a discipline and a practice that has exceeded us for thousands of years. And the innate relationship between cannabis and this plant has already been studied in depth in Chinese medicine, and how it really reacts to those many other forms of treatment or practice through TCM, like acupuncture. So I think what we have to understand here, and I think what the conversation should really look at is traditional Chinese medicine and cannabis have been one since day one, have been together. Now let's talk about how they really work together using science today, right? Science around acupuncture, science around cannabis therapies, around dosing and stuff like that. Although we largely don't have a lot of data associated with TCM and cannabis as far as dosing mechanisms. Like I said in my previous slide, you guys can look through PubMed or the National Institute of Health and Science and find some really great information relating to the ECs and practices as such. So this is where the practice of acupuncture and the practice of cannabis therapies, whether it be hemp-based therapies or actual hemp cannabis marijuana-based therapies, this is where the interaction comes into play. And this is where I think as a practitioner, we have to both understand what's happening with acupuncture, what's happening with a cannabis therapy, and how they mingle together. And I want to talk to you guys specifically about full plant hemp oil or full plant cannabis oil as part of that relationship with your practice, whether it's acupuncture, qigong, or whatever it may be. And this is really what we're talking about as the optimal health, right? Full plant. All of the cannabinoids that are within that plant, just like our endocannabinoid system relies on many cannabinoids and activators on our ECS. It's not the endo-THC system or the endo-CBD system. It's the endocannabinoid system. And that's why this slide around full plant hemp oil is important. It's to understand, again, that relationship between phyto and mammalia, that unique relationship between plant and man, that the sum of the whole, this is where we're going to get into understanding the plant and its mechanisms and they work. The sum of the whole, all of these phytonutrients and beneficial are far greater than the parts alone. CBD is great. And it's been working wonderful things in patients' lives and people's lives. But CBD, along with the correct terpenes and other plant profiles, are really the keys to our endocannabinoid system, or that mesh we want to find between other practices in TCM, and how we can create this optimal wellness outcome for ourselves, for our patients, or wherever we may be serving in this respect. So what is full plant? So full plant hemp oil is unique in the space. You get a lot of full spectrum, and that's not defined, but full plant is actually just that. It's in compilation. It's the entourage effect. The entourage effect are all of these individual molecules in the plant and how they work together. And how they work in the plant is this entourage, right? We have terpenes, cannabinoids, flavonoids, chlorophylls, all of these wonderful individual nutrients work together in symmetry inside the plant. That's called the entourage effect. And how that entourage work effect goes from plant to mammalia, that's synergy. That's the relationship between plant and man. And that's coming together. That's the synergistic effect of when we combine of the plant's benefits into mammalia. That's the synergy we're looking for. Now you add to the synergistic effect, you add to the circle, whether it be acupuncture for stress or qigong to relieve any kind of arthritic or inflammation ailments. We are talking total body wellness here, where we encapsulate what we call full plant hemp oil. When we talk about the cannabis and endocannabinoid system and practices of TCM, we're talking total body wellness. So, as you guys know, there's many definitions or sayings around cannabis. We call it full spectrum hemp oil. Now, there's hemp seed oil, there's CBD oil, but full spectrum hemp oil is, in my opinion, and largely, as you guys, if you decide to jump into some studies on PubMed, et cetera, like that, I think you will form the opinion through some really quantitative research that this is really the key to the ECS, the endocannabinoid system. So as we know, most of these constituents within hemp oil, CBD, CBG, some terpenes, they're all associated with these analgesic properties of antispasm, bringing healing and balance, anti-inflammatory. It's largely antimicrobial. I could go into the benefits of this plant and how they react to us for days. It's a unique relationship. So unique, you guys, that this is the only plant in the world that we share, out of our 23 pairs of chromosomes, we share almost 40 identical chromosomes with this plant. It's really made me to believe that we are absolutely reliant on this and for its many, many benefits. So hemp oil is best known for its anti-inflammatory properties, bringing resilience to the fight and flight response. It improves sleep. I hear this all of the time when folks are experiencing cannabis therapies. It spurs neurological support and prevention of CTE, Alzheimer's, etc. You guys have probably read all of this. It's largely there's a large NFL group contingency who's always talking about the benefits of CBD and hemp oil therapies around CTE and injuries. So let's talk about a little bit about what makes the products unique and makes them really act on our endocannabinoid system, and what you should think about if you are going to bring this into a multidiscipline practice or a multidiscipline association of some kind, as far as bringing it into a TCM and using it in different therapies through TCM. This is important, and it's to understand really that sum of the whole, right? And how those benefits are far greater than the parts alone. And how do you capture that? So I've tried to do every form of cannabis extraction there is. I've done ethanol extraction, I've done CO2 extraction, and I've always done this with efforts to try to exemplify and try to mimic all of these wonderful phytonutrients I have in these genetics that we've created. And I've only found one way really to emulate that, and that's through what I call lipid infusion. And it's important for everyone to understand that lipid infusion is not a new practice. I'm sure you guys all have seen lipid emulsifiers and lipid infusions of some kind in your practice, whether it be in Chinese medicine or not. But lipid infusion is really important in its actions on the ECS when modified with hemp. So when you have a lipid infusion that's full of this wonderful phytonutrients from hemp, cannabidiol, CBG, cannabigerol, beta-caryophyllene, some of these wonderful things, these flavonoids. So when you're able to infuse the oil and really exemplify all of these nutrients in a plant to ingest in our body, you guys, this is what I'm talking about, is whole body wellness. This is where the sum of the whole is far greater than the parts alone, but the sum of the whole has an innate action on the endocannabinoid system, bringing that homeostasis and balance right down to a cellular level. So lipid infusion that we do at Functional Remedies, it's very proprietary that we do. It, like I said, it is the only process that I've ever used that exemplifies the plant's phytonutrients into a product that really engages, activates the endocannabinoid system. And I'm telling you, if this was an opportunity for practitioners to bring these kind of products into their practice alongside a traditional practice in TCM, you guys are going to see these extenuated benefits of your traditional practices when you add cannabidiol and hemp oil therapies. So another really interesting point is hemp is lipophilic, and cannabis genetics have more in common with human genetics than any other plant. This is what's crazy, in the sense that this plant has been stepped on since 1937, when we outlawed the plant completely. But it's unique to us. There's the circle connection here with a plant We share over 40 chromosomes with this plant. It was put here for a reason, and that's for optimal health and wellness. And although we are just now coming out of, call it the large depths of miseducation, of lack of education, putting pharmacological products first for profit instead of health, that's all going to change. And I think what's going to change big time is understanding of the endocannabinoid system, how it is a master system modulator and regulator, and how all of these tertiary autoimmune or inflammation, all of these incidents and actions that are happening in our body are largely not being treated correctly. We have to look to the ECS to bring the balance to those periphery systems. Talk about an adaptable plant, you guys. As we talked about, over 2,000 years ago, this plant has traveled throughout Asia and been used in traditional Chinese medicines alongside some of the practices you all have been associated with. The first actual written notation was in Durban, Africa, of this plant, centuries and centuries ago. So it's incredibly adaptable, and it's evolved with us over time to supply us with these many beneficial phytonutrients that we all rely on. So it's a truly adaptable plant, and it's only here to create balance, and not with us. This goes into sustainability. This goes into soil balance. This is the circle of wellness, of life here, that this plant is largely responsible for. It won't be expiratory or depressive. It's encouraged to use with addiction of patients because it decreases these symptoms of anxiety that trigger substance abuse. Like I said, there is a plethora of wonderful information through PubMed on this. This is really interesting, right? Substance that can decrease cravings for. You guys see the top first two, sugar and nicotine. I mean, some of the biggest backbones for disease and large amounts of healthcare costs in this country through diabetes and cancers, et cetera, like that. And this plant has largely been stepped on over the past, 5 decades now, and largely been put aside as it's an addictive plant. It's dangerous. It has no medicinal value. Well, we can argue that we can go back 2,000 years and argue that traditional Chinese medicine and argue that it's been an incredibly adaptable plant. It's almost an adaptogen in itself. So this is really, really important. Okay, so looks like there's some questions coming in. I'm supposed to start asking about those here through Carl. So if we want to start answering some questions, I can do that as I'm going along. So what's unique about functional remedies and practices for practitioner practices, we have a pro brand that's only given to folks who are in natural practices and practitioners themselves. So this is unique. This is something that's only available to you guys that are practitioners. And that should be really important because it gives you an advantage in the marketplace. You have something that's only going to be available through you, through your entities, and only available for you to add into your multidiscipline practice and care. So let's talk about essential tremors. Does it work? If so, dosing. This is from Mira. Mira, real quick, there's a lot of great information on PubMed. Hey, Jeff, there's a lot of great information on PubMed regarding dosing around any kind of a neurological deficit or neurological tremor association. Dosing is a little bit different when it comes to cannabis therapies, right? Because of our endocannabinoid system and how it really is non-specific. It is the master system regulator in the body, but it sends signals where it needs to. So as far as dosing to have an effect, you can read about a lot of stuff on PubMed as far as tremor and associative disorders. Great information there.
All right. Thank you so much, Tim. This has been great. And we do have some more questions coming in. So it looks like back in the questions tab, we have, well, first, somebody wanted to clarify on the first slide. It had said that treatments the treatments modulate the ECS because it influences medians, but she wanted to clarify if it was meridians.
Sorry, yes, the meridians of the, yes, ma'am. Sorry, I didn't, if I did say medians, I apologize. I meant to say meridians, and think of this as, you know, a neurosynapse, a neuromodulator. I'm gonna grab a prop here for everybody, but I often talk about neuromodulation and meridian actions in this respect. If this was a generator, and if this generator was not working properly, it was out of balance, it was going. So if we were to influence our system modulator here through ingestion of hemp oil and bring this into balance, our meridian to balance, go from to, that's what is really responsible for as we ingest hemp oil and as the ECS brings system modulations to those neural synapses, to those neural meridians. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. And then, so I had answered this question for Lauren, but I want to see what your opinion is. She wanted to know, for people in New Jersey, does anybody know if they're allowed to sell cannabis oils or topicals if they're not licensed herbalists?
So I'm not an attorney, and I would encourage folks to really look to local counsel in their jurisdictions for proper answers. But in my experience and my understanding, you are to sell products in your practice and not have an associated license to do so to handle CBD-based hemp products.
All right. And then I would like to know, she said she understands the mechanism of the need for lipids in the CBD oil so that it may pass by past the lipid bilayer in the brain better. But she's also heard of some products that are adding coconut oil or lipids, and it's basically becoming a filler.
Yeah. You know, unfortunately, guys, we're in an industry right now that's it's in its boom stage. There's a lot of different brands, a lot of different companies out there. So I really encourage you as practitioners and as folks who are interested in bringing products into your practice to do some serious due diligence behind the brands and what's behind those brands as far as the ethos of those companies. Because Jeff, she's right. You know, there are companies out there that are claiming that, there's an X amount of CBD, but it's largely a filling oil. So, you know, ma'am, you are correct, and it's unfortunate in the industry. But I would encourage you to go to a reputable company, do some in-depth research, ask for certificates of analysis around their products to better understand the safety of the product you're going to be using.
All right, I think that was a great answer. And then Chris would like to know, he wants you to talk a little bit more about the lipid infusion extraction versus other methods like CO2.
Sure. So lipid infusion is really unique in the cannabis space. Like I said, it's not used. Folks are, even though it's a practice been around for many years, folks are used to these traditional forms of botanical extraction like CO2 or ethanol. And those are great for traditional botanicals, but cannabis is not traditional. It's unique. And it has too many of these phytonutrients that work in unison to not be exemplified in a product. And like I said, I've done every form of extraction process there is. So with CO2, I cannot get all of these phytonutrients in an exemplified product like I can with lipid. I can't capture my chlorophylls or my flavonoids or all of the other stuff that is responsible for lipid bonding in a product. When you concentrate through CO2 or through ethanol, there's no bonding process. It's forced concentration of a molecule. It's different polarity. It acts differently on the body at that point. So there's many differences to folks, to Hiskins around CO2 and lipid infusion. But think of lipid infusion as a gentle bonding process that naturally concentrates. And CO2 is a solvent product. The air is cooled back to the gas is cooled back to a liquid, and then it's forced through a column at very high pressure to exemplify an oil at the end.
Right. Nicole wanted to know, she said her patient's number one concern is if full plant or full spectrum products can lead to a positive drug test because she has a lot of public service employees as patients.
It's a great question. I deal with this almost daily. So, ma'am, great question. As the president of the HIA in the state and my many associations I'm with, this is an important hot button item. And here's what's crazy, guys, is yes, it depends on the body, but you can largely test positive. Even just using a CBD product, you could test positive for THC. And here's why. The majority of drug tests that are taken out there are 3 script panel tests. They're incredibly inexpensive that way, but they don't test for THC or CBD, and explicitly they test for the presence of cannabinoids. And it's up to the individual afterwards to prove that they maybe are just CBD users and have not used THC. So, ma'am, fortunately, you're right. The using a cannabidiol-based full-spectrum product may lead to a positive urinalysis, but that urinalysis is likely a multi-panel urinalysis as to where it tests for a panel of cannabinoids rather than individual molecules.
Well, and this is just me kind of, riffing off of that. But so if somebody did an isolate, would you say it's less of a concern or still a concern?
Yeah, Jeff, it would still be a concern, right? Largely because what I said, even a CBD isolate will test positive for THC in the sense of it's a multi-cannabinoid test. So if an individual were taking a drug test through a work or were required to by law enforcement, all of those drug tests that those folks taste do not test for THC individually. They test for cannabinoids in general.
What's your opinion on topicals?
Topicals, great. So this is what's again about the plant and about us and the endocannabinoid system. Is topicals work great too, because what's the largest organ in our body? It's the skin, and it has a load of endocannabinoid receptors. So folks are often flabbergasted. They've used many other topicals for whatever it may be, a pain or inflammation, and then it's a CBD based or a full spectrum hemp based salve, and they say, "Oh my gosh, where has this been? Why is it working so much better?" Well, it's because our skin is full of those endocannabinoid receptors that want that nourishment.
What about drug testing? Would you think drug testing's fine with the topical?
That's a good question, Jeff. I'm not to give you the straight answer, the yes or no answer on that. I would say, whoever is using any kind of cannabis therapies, whether it be topical or whether it be an ingestible, really to check with your employers and let them know or inquire as to company policies.
Perfect. And then Tracy wants to know, is there a difference between water-soluble versus oil-based hemp, such as digestive availability?
Interesting stuff. And this is where I can get into some crazy science around this. But it's also, remember, the sum of the whole is far greater than the parts alone. And to get to that individual molecule of CBD, and then to make it water soluble, you are refining one of the most essential nutrients in life to be water soluble when our body requires it in a fat, in its natural form, where it works better, where it absorbs, where the bioavailability is much better, and where it's in its natural state. Excuse me.
All right. It's from Mark, actually. It looks like it directly relates to your products. So he says he loves your products, but recently a police friend of his checked the liquid oil for THC and said if he found it in a vehicle, he would have to take them in, like meaning the person. Any thoughts? And then do you have a certificate of analysis to help us if this happens?
Yeah, absolutely. All of our products, you can check QR codes and they lead right back to a certificate of analysis. So what's unique is like I said, right now we are largely working in a semi-regulated industry. The FDA is just coming into its regulatory process. So those of us in the industry that are working, have been working these many years, are really working hard in coordination with our many regulators to streamline the process of regulations and to get some smart regulations in place so these kind of instances just don't happen anymore. So we're defining those THC levels. Right now, the defined THC level, as defined as hemp, is 0.3% THC or below is defined as hemp. You go above, you are considered a THC product. So all of our products, they may contain a trace amount of THC
in the final product, but it's less than 0.3. It's less than the legal parameters.
And actually, Mark, it would be really interesting, I think, for everyone to hear what state you're in. If you can maybe chime in either the chat or questions tab, just to see, what the police is saying in different jurisdictions. Next one. So this actually, there's a few more kind of in the strain. So Mon's kind of asking Mark about, did the police officer find THC when he tested, which he said they did in the second drop that they tested. I guess he said that he's a friend and his wife loves the product, so there's no problem, but he wanted to warn them that the situation could arise. And yes. That's in Florida, by the way.
Gotcha. Yeah, like I said, Jeff, we do everything to be, completely within regulations of the law as they stand now. We do not say that our products are THC free or there's no THC. We have less than 0.3% in all of our products as you ingest them.
Perfect. And that was actually one of the comments that Monica had made in response, is that she was disappointed to hear that there is THC in the product. But as you just described, that with a whole plant hemp-based product, that it is going to have 1.3% THC. And you guys have certificates of analysis to show that for each of your batches, if I'm correct.
That's correct. And I appreciate the sentiment, ma'am. But, we shouldn't be afraid of THC, and it's really important. It's one of the keys to our endocannabinoid system. It's one of the keys to optimal health and wellness and balance.
All right, and then looks like we have a lot more questions coming in, actually. Warren wants to know what the best resources for beginners learn about dosing, the differences between hemp oil, CBD, and the properties of each, what fillers tend to be present, what are the risks, and in other words, who are not good candidates for CBD hemp-based products?
Geez, a lot of questions in there. Yes, there's associative risks out there, right? Because, like I said, this is a still in the midst of regulations. There's a lot of brands out there that are here to take advantage of folks in this space because of the popularity of round cannabidiol, because it's working so good. So there's a lot of buyer beware in a sense. But in getting to the point of this question, Jeff, who shouldn't be taking this? Well, everyone should be taking this. The majority of us are largely endocannabinoid deficient. We are experiencing these deficiencies that are causing peripheral and tertiary ailments that are being mistreated and are causing more and more problems in our body. So everyone should use this. I use it every day like you would a vitamin. My kids do it. They're anywhere from 9 years old all the way up to 13. And they have it every day as part of just a vitamin supplement process. They're not doing it to treat anything, but just to bringing that balance to their life and enhancing their wellness. So I truly believe everyone should be experiencing cannabis therapies, whether in a small, moderate dose, like a general supplement you may take, or if you're using it for prescriptive reasons.
What would you consider to be a mild dose, a small dose?
So my kids take 10 milligrams a capsule every day.
One capsule?
Yeah, one capsule a day. Sometimes if they have a headache or something like that, they'll take a couple or a 25 milligram. But as far as dosing and then getting into titrating doses, as with anything new into the body, and as with anything new in the natural therapy side, I encourage everyone to start low, experience cannabis therapies. And what's great, if you take a product, a 10 milligram capsule, and you come back to me and say, Tim, I didn't feel anything, that's good. You can take a little bit more, and you're not necessarily looking to feel anything, but you should notice better balance in your life, whether it's any kind of react or any kind of ailment or instance or anything like that, mental acuity, better sleep. You'll notice the little things.
And this is more from me, but how long would somebody wait if they took the 10, didn't necessarily feel anything? How long should they wait until they take more?
So what's good, Jeff, is you can't overdose on this. Because our products are unrefined organic coconut oil and an infusation of hemp. If you do take a lot of capsules or stuff, you may have more of a reaction to the amount of coconut oil you're taking than anything else. So I always tell folks to start low. And if you're not feeling it right away, that's okay. You can take another right away, or you can until an appropriate timing that your body feels is ready to take another capsule or anything like that.
All right. And then for Lauren, just to let you know, we do also have some other previously recorded webinars on our blog. Some with Chad Connor, who did talk a lot about dosing in one of the options. So feel free to check out our blog, and there'll be more webinars, and we'll keep planning more for the future as well. Let's move on to the next question. So it looks like Alicia would like to know, can you explain lipid infusion versus everyone else, for instance, in isolate?
Okay, so yes, lipid infusion versus the majority of the market out there. The majority of the market is, like I said, it's folks using traditional forms of botanical extraction, ethanol. Hydrocarbon is a very popular form of extraction. Hydrocarbon are like butanes and hexanes and stuff like that. It's used a lot in different extractions. Ethanol, CO2. But what makes lipid unique is its relationship to cannabis and how it can capture all of those phytonutrients, all of those things that work together, the sum of the whole, and really exemplify that in a final product. That's the unique thing of lipid infusion compared to any other product or any other form of extraction in the cannabis world.
All right. And then Angel would like to know, because she heard that omegas are the building of the endocannabinoid system, and CBD or hemp works better if the omegas are in place too.
Oh, girl, you're on it. That is one of the keys to the ECS. That's why over many years ago, when I tried all these different infusion, I came to organic unrefined coconut oil because of the omegas and how it is a key to the ECS and how it complements cannabidiol. So you are incredibly correct. That's why my products are so good, is because of our genetics and our full spectrum hemp oil, but because the base is also, we use unrefined coconut oil, which is one of those keys to the ECS for system modulation and balance. You're totally right, Angel.
All right. And then Zena wants to know, what type of CBD do you think is best or most advisable for children with epilepsy?
That's a tough one, Zena. I unfortunately, I wish I were a medical practitioner and I could say this is the best product to use for epilepsy. There's a lot of great research out there. Again, it is my belief and through my research and practice that full spectrum hemp oil in moderate doses can have a really intrinsic effects on neural deficit or neurological disorders, including epilepsy.
All right. And then Nicole says that she has found that her patients who smoke pot don't seem to benefit from typical CBD creams, while those who don't smoke pot seem to benefit from the topicals. And would you think that this is because the endocannabinoid system is saturated?
No, that's a great question. It's a unique question. I don't ever get that one very much, and compared to smoking versus ingesting our topicals, but it's really hard to bring complete cellular balance, to bring that homeostasis through vaping or inhalation of cannabinoids. A large amount of those, you guys, are actually transformed or converted into different molecules and react differently in our body when something is put to that kind of heat and then ingested orally. So it'd be tough for me to believe that through marijuana use daily that their endocannabinoid system is in complete balance. That being said, it's an interesting correlation to say that, man, marijuana smokers aren't seeing the topical relief as non-smokers. That's really interesting. And it goes back to the ECS, as it's not specific, neither are cannabis therapies. So that's a really interesting point you make, and I'd love to perhaps talk with you about it. I think my contacts will be made available. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, if there's anybody from the Functional Remedy team that's still watching the webinar, if you could maybe throw Tim's email in there, that would be fantastic for people to reach out with any questions. And then Marie would like to know, is your product human only, or do you also have an animal product, or would you suggest your product for animals as well?
Yeah, we do have a pet line as well. And what's great about the endocannabinoid system, it's throughout mammalia. It's dogs, cats, horses, anyone who has an endocannabinoid system in the mammalia species can benefit from these products. Now, when we get into talking about dosing in canine or feline aspects of things, it can be a little different, as they have many more receptors than we do in different locations. So I would encourage anyone who's wants to go down that road and experience, get more information in regards to how cannabidiol therapies work in relation to pets. Reach out to a good vet in your area. But yes, ma'am, we do often, and they're wonderful in conjunction with any form of mammalia.
Is there any reason why somebody wouldn't use the Pro line that LASA OMS offers for pets?
No, ma'am. No, absolutely not. You could absolutely use it.
All right, perfect. And then let's see. So looks like, Robin would like to know what lipid is used to infuse the hemp.
We use an unrefined organic coconut oil, and that's really important, you guys, because like I said, we have to concentrate that way. What's unique, right? All of these beneficials in the plant, they all rely on plant fats in the plants for its metabolistic workings and how everything works in Oxford in the plant. So it really relies on fat and how those are all bonded together in the plant. So that's really what made me honestly believe or see that this is simple. The plant loves fats. So that's why I ended up using unrefined organic coconut oil. And how I can concentrate is the bonding surface with coconut oil. It's much larger than what the plant is using. Therefore, individual molecules of cannabidiol can move right over and just sit right beside each other on this larger bonding surface. It's pretty cool.
And then Walt wants to know if they can purchase CBD products directly from your company and if we can provide a link. I just put a link into LASA OMS. So LASA OMS is the exclusive distributor of acupuncturists for the Functional Remedies Pro line. So you can visit our website. I just included a link into the questions tab. I'll throw one into the chat as well. And if you guys check your email following the webinar, you can find yourself a really great promo code for a discount on Functional Remedies products.
Great job.
Next question would be, we have a lot of questions coming in, so I hope you're okay on time.
Yes, sir.
And then Judith would like to know, is there any reason someone should not take CBD oil? Does it interact with any medications like blood pressure depression meds, etc.?
Good question. It was Judith, correct?
Yeah.
Judith, that's a great question. And yes, there are now developing some contraindications based on current medications folks are taking, largely around arrhythmia drugs or cardiac arrhythmia drugs, blood pressure, blood thinners, etc. I encourage folks to do research if they are experiencing or if they are using any kind of cardiac therapies to really research how they can react with CBD before introducing cannabis therapies of any kind. So yes, Judith, you are starting to see contraindications when certain prescriptive cardiac drugs are being used.
All right. Next one's from Lena. It looks like, so she wants to know about tinnitus. It's known that it's hyperactivity of the synapses overfiring. Can CBD oil help to bring the brain to homeostasis? And have you seen it help for this condition?
That's funny you say that, ma'am. There's actually a really good article that just came onto PubMed regarding tinnitus and cannabis therapies around the specific cellular response and enzymes that are causing tinnitus, and how cannabis therapies can I guess kind of come into that response and modulate that tinnitus. It sounds like it's not 100%, but it is definitely seeing some effects in the research I've read. So really, really good question, but it's state-of-the-art stuff that we're just really getting into now in the United States. There's a lot of good, also really good information around cannabis therapies out of Israel and Hebrew University, outside of PubMed and the National Institute of Health.
All right, and then actually, Tim, would you mind sending me that research article if you have access to it?
Yeah, I can send that over to you.
All right, perfect. So if anybody wants a copy of that article, just an email to either me, which is jbloom@lasaoms.com. That's in the comments. You can also email Functional Remedies. I saw Alicia put her contact information in the chats. Moving on to our next question. I think I know the answer to this already. Jen would like to know, what is the best form of extraction for CBD, and what is your favorite company?
But the best, the optimal form of infusation and extraction is definitely the lipid infusion we've been speaking about. And if you guys haven't tried Functional Remedies products compared to anybody else's on the market, I highly encourage you guys to try them. It's the true encapsulation of the plant into a product, and that's what really, like I said, activates this ECS into balance.
I can honestly say I've tried them myself. I find them to be really, really great. We do have some samples on hand as well. So if anybody's not quite ready to dive right into a purchase but wants to try a sample, shoot email. My email is in the chats at jbloom@lossaoms.com, and I can send you out a sample to try prior to purchasing. And let's move on. We have still more questions coming in. This is fantastic. Yeah. Let's see. Angel would like to know, what is your opinion of vaping CBD oil?
So, vaping is great. It can be very specific for psychosomatic instances, right? Folks who are having anxiety attacks, who need instant relief. CBD has been known to do that. The best, quickest way that I've seen relief and action in that respect has been through vaping, cannabidiol and hemp-based products. So, yes, there's definitely a point of a therapy there in vaping around certain aspects of psychosomatic conditions.
All right. This question I'm not sure is necessarily for you, maybe more for the audience. Farhana wants to know, are we putting CBD oil on our needles during the acupuncture treatments? I think that's interesting. I don't know the answer. I haven't heard that before.
So I'll give you a personal experience here. Yeah, and that's all I can give you. But I enjoy traditional Chinese therapy and traditional Chinese medicines and therapies. I do partake in acupuncture. And I have had my provider, my practitioner, use our cannabis hemp-infused oil in correlation with a session of treatment. I had him use it on my back, and then they did the needles directly afterwards. And again, I think it was an extenuated benefit for me.
Okay. I do see some comments coming in of people saying that they don't do that. I do see, it looks like from first initial A, last name White, we have a question on how to ensure you are extracting the THC to the legal level. Very interesting.
That's a great question. And we use a variety of testing mechanisms to ensure that. But what we do for the end product for customer complete care is we have third-party testing that we require in our company to be sure that all of our formulations, everything is correct along our process, that we are not exceeding over the legal amount of THC. So we use a lot of certificates of analysis, a lot of testing through gas chromatography and HPLC, and also third-party tests as well.
All right. And then Angel wants to know, is there any information in regards to AFib?
AFib, arterial fibrillation, right. So it's really interesting because I've read several articles around oral consumption of cannabis, smoking, in regards to AFib and how it can trigger those kind of conditions that are already genealogical in the body. So I've read stuff as far as, inhalation. And when it comes to ingestion of cannabis products, of a supplement, I haven't read any associated research that leads it to associate with AFib at all, just on the smoking side.
All right.
It's a good question.
It's really great questions, actually.
Yeah.
So that is actually our last question, unless anybody has one before we wrap things up. Really, we can't thank you enough. This has been extremely informative. I would like everyone to know here that we will be sharing the recording of this in the next maybe week or so, possibly sooner. Also, anybody that's here right now will receive an email that will have a replay. Angel came in. She's saying, let's see, that's in regards to the AFib. So she's saying it won't help or hurt.
Angel, like I said, unfortunately with this is really singular to inhalation via smoking that I've seen research that it can cause a response like AFib.
All right. Well, it looks like we won't have any unanswered questions since you were really, very informative, very helpful. Everybody, please check your email inbox after the conclusion because you will have a promo code for a great discount off of Functional Remedies products. Also, stay tuned because July 10th, we'll have our next webinar, which is going to be Ask Me Anything About CBD with Connor. The replay, Barbara, will be sent to your email immediately following the webinar. So check your email. You'll have the discount discount, you'll have a promo code, and you'll have a link to watch the recording. I want to thank Tim for all of your time and information, your wealth of knowledge. Thank you to everybody who came tonight, and we would love to see you guys next time. So thank you again.
Thank you all. Very fun. Thank you.